But here we go. Look at this. Boom. Crosshair. Oh, awesome. So stoked. All right, let's take a look and see what we've got on the field. Now, watch, I'm going to be terrible and not be able to actually point the crosshair at anything.
Little does Bandit know we've equipped his crosshair with quadruple Gauss rifles.
Everybody's dying. All right, we are on the RJF side. We have Annihilator 1A with the 4 AC-10s, Hunchback 4P, medium lasers, of course. They do have a Black Knight on the field, lots of pinpoint accuracy there, and a Banshee 3S with an AC-10 SRM-6.
We're going to have an engagement potentially right here at Theta. Locust 4228 gets up on Theta. Locust for RJF backs off. We've already got a lot of fire going down range. Looks like people trying to, I guess, get some locks on that Locust. Either that or they're blind firing.
Slave labor in that Wolfhound just taking a pounding, just like we were worried about with the one-on-one engagements and stuff, getting a hard lock on them and down to 79% on the initial engagement, even taking more. Val and the Locust able to secure Theta, so the 3 cap in favor of 228 Wild
also
Ones.
running a Javelin and a Commando. They've got a cap on Gamma and Epsilon right now. It'll be interesting to see whether they keep those mechs in the backfield or whether they go and move up with the main body.
I think this is going to be kind of our first look here at...
And this Locust is moving over to the Awesome on the side. He's going to get locks on this Awesome, but I think this position that the Awesome has...
Got to keep in mind, those PPCs have limited range.
Those PPCs have minimum range. He's on top of it, but he's got to be careful because here comes the Locust for RJF coming around the corner. He's going to get out of town, but he dropped the strike and held some locks. That Awesome took a lot of damage from that engagement.
228 Wild Ones really coming in strong, getting the locks. Val and that Locust just doing a ton of work, getting those locks, harassing. Really, RJF looks very uncomfortable right now.
The Commando for RJF is coming up behind. This is Light Wyvern, and he just dropped the UAV and got some shots in on the Archer for 228 Wild One. Pretty effective here, but that Archer does carry 4 medium lasers, so can have some defense against it, but he's going to start seeing some fire, although I don't see any LRMs coming around the corner, wasting that UAV for RJF. That's tough to see.
Well, there aren't a lot of LRMs, if any, on the field for RJF. But what I was about to say is this seems to be the first look at pinpoint versus LRMs in this contest here. And so far, I think Wild One's really getting a lot of early damage in, doing a lot of work. Now, we have a side skirmish here. That Locust was trying for a back cap, and he's getting chased by Val. JZ gets taken out by the Annihilator. Must have been a really bad peek. Didn't get the chance to see where that was happening. But they were trying for a back cap, Locust versus Locust, and we might see some rain coming in. But smartly, Locust playing up against the wall, so if any LRMs do come in, he'll be able to block them. But Val seems to be doing some work.
In the meantime, at Theta, we have...
looks like it was an ammo explosion for JZ.
Wolfhound and the Commando both being aggressive now on this Commando and the Javelin on the left side of Theta here.
RJF starting to deal out that damage, so for all the early Lerm fire, they're actually getting kills now and pushing up aggressively.
Losing that Stalker really hurt, and 228 Wild Ones backing off the Caldera, RJF being very aggressive. This is going to be interesting to see.
And I think now we're starting to see where that pinpoint really is starting to land these kills, get the damage where it counts. You know, LRM fire spread, it does drop the percentage. Looks like Wolfhound gets taken out by the Commando, having a light go down. That's pretty serious. And RJF is on the push.
Goes down as well. That's big. That Annihilator now is going to be... They've got to get that mech down.
The Val and the Locust goes down. Big kill right there. Is that both lights down now for Wild Ones? They have the Javelin still.
The Commando, the Javelin, But this is... I think this is over. RJF is out in the open. They've got the pinpoint fire.
And they've got the 4 cap.
Caps have been flipped,
And there, right there, we're seeing that superiority of the pinpoint front-loaded damage. Those AC-10s ripping into the Stalker, causing an ammo explosion. It wasn't looking too good at the beginning for RJF because they were getting a lot of damage into their mechs. A lot of armor being stripped out. And but
losing that Stalker was key for them to become aggressive in this battle.
They needed that big time.
Now that they've done that,
that was a huge opening for them.
Yeah, they took they took advantage of it, and they are just steamrolling the remainder of these maps. This game's over.
Well played, RJF. That caught me a little bit off guard there. You know, we're looking at, oh, well, here's Val stopping a cap expertly against the other Locust. That Locust is going to get screwed. And I'm like, why isn't there a massive amount of LRMs coming in on this Locust? And then look back, didn't even get a chance to see it, but the Annihilator with those AC-10s just slagging JZ with an ammo explosion, starting things off on that push, and just that aggression then from RJF to seal the deal. You know,
well, it's the right call. You see an assault mech go down, you still have a relatively healthy main body at that point, because there just hasn't been enough time to lose some of that damage. It's the right call. You push, you're aggressive, and just a good job by RJF there, taking advantage.
And I wish I would have had a chance to see it, but I'm assuming that the kill against the Stalker occurred during an RJF initial push. Like, they must have silhouetted, they must have made the call to go. And I think that in itself is the right call, because you're up against a team that has a lot of LRMs. They want to soften you up. You're down on caps, you're getting rained on. That, in my opinion, is the best call. Well, you've still got some armor remaining on your mech. You've got pinpoint. You can do moving mid-range. You can get in there and get the job done. They got that Annihilator up to the front. They pushed into their enemy and soaked up whatever remaining LRMs they decided to toss at them. It got the Commando in on the backside of one of the LRM mechs, the Archer getting harassed by the Commando. Just a great coordinated push by RJF, and I honestly, I bet you a lot of people watching right now are thinking that they're probably pretty happy that the LRMs kind of fell to what we're used to, which is that pinpoint front-loaded damage.
Yeah, and that puts me in mind of their RJF's first match against Dudes Club, right? They or second drop against Dudes Club. They pushed hard and won.
Exactly. Caustic gets banned on this one by by Wild Ones, actually.
228s, yeah.
And we're going into Mining Collective, so we're going to have a little bit of a change up here. We'll have to see what is this going to mean for these teams. I don't see a lot of LRMs in use on Mining Collective. There's a lot of sharp corners to use for cover.
Yeah, it's a lot tougher, I think, to bring that sort of deck, which may, like we said, play into RJF's hands. I mean, they've now won 2 drops in the semifinals. They had one against Dudes Club, and this one we just saw here. And in both of them, they won being the more aggressive team, the harder pushing team. Mining Collective is the map that we've basically seen brawls on.
Exactly. And if I was Wild Ones, I would want to come up with a way to really receive that aggression. RJF has shown that they can be an aggressive team. Wild Ones, we've seen play a lot more of a standoffish deck in the past. We've seen them push as well, though. But they lost to Isengrim on this map to a big push. They also won on this map against Isengrim, receiving a big push. Yep. Biggest differences in that was positioning and, you know, surrounding the enemy. So the Isengrim win, they came up that left side and just swarmed all around Wild Ones. They had no chance to react, and just they were able to have expert focus. Second time, Eisen comes up the other side. They're able to position themselves to be able to hit them in the back and really start shredding down some of these mechs, slagging that back armor and just getting the job done. So if Wild Ones wants to receive on this, and if RJF still plans to be aggressive, if everybody's going to be really predictable, it all comes down to execution. It all comes down to how well they receive. But you never know. I mean, Wild Ones might come out aggressive themselves, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of pinpoint.
I'd be very nervous to run a cap strat on this map out of what we've seen out of RJF so far in the matches they've won. The matches RJF have lost, they've not been aggressive. I think RJF realizes that maybe their talent is in these pushing. That's what their team does best. And so, 228 I think needs to be prepared for this. We talked about, like you said, in the first match against Isengrim, their first drop, they were not ready. And that push took a while to get there. It wasn't like it happened right at the beginning of the match. There was some trading, some back and forth, but they were not prepared for that push. This time 228 needs to be ready, and if you're RJF, you've got the upper hand here. You're up 1-0. You've shown that you can push and be aggressive and win. Now again, that was against a deck that was a little more ranged with the LRMs, but you've shown that you can win that deck. At the same time, you kind of have options. You can slow it down a little bit and play some caps and maybe try and keep 228 guessing.
And of course, teams have switched sides as well. We've got Wild Ones on Team 2. They'll be on the right side of the map. Russian Jade Falcon on the left side of the map. A couple of the key features here. Theta, of course, once again being a hot contested position there. We do see the possibility for an entire side of the map being given up for caps. Like a lot of times they'll come in on a Gamma, and if Epsilon isn't contested, they'll go snag it, because there's a lot of fixtures here blocking and preventing them from necessarily being harassed. It is an opportunity for somebody to potentially get ganked or Wolfpack, but we'll a lot of times see something like that. It's a little tougher to do on this side, and this side up here at the top, that's even more possible for somebody to get in here, cut you off, and cause some massive damage before you can get out. The north side is definitely difficult for that purpose. But there's some buildings over Theta here. This side, it's a little bit more staggered. There's some windows, so somebody could potentially shoot in there from further back if they decide to play a really standoff position to try and control Theta. But not a lot of jump jets in stock
Not
mode.
a lot of jump jets and very little range pinpoint, right? There's large lasers and PPCs as opposed to ER large and ER PPCs.
So, sitting back on this and shooting through the windows traditionally had been a good option, especially if you have a mech standing down low that can jump jet up, like a Nova or something like that. They don't have that as an option, so I think that strong point from Theta there on that side is kind of nullified a bit. And this is a solid wall on this side right here. So they're not able to really do anything back at them from cakes unless they sit way high. But once again, if you're going to get up on top of a cake to be able to shoot down into Theta, you need to have those jump jets. So losing a lot of vertical here is going to definitely change up the play style of these teams and kind of force them to do around the corner style battles. And I wouldn't be surprised one bit to see a push and a reception here.
Yeah, stock mode, like we talked about, without the jump jets being as prevalent, without the range, it definitely plays out on this map to be a pretty aggressive map. But, that's kind of fun to watch. And like I said, both these teams need to be prepared for the aggression. I think, 228 may say, you know what, we're not going to set up to receive. We're going to be aggressive back and push into them and maybe catch them off guard too. So I think both these teams need to be aware of that, even if they're planning to be the aggressor. The last thing you need is to try and get people ready for a push, and then all of a sudden, here's the enemy team right in the middle of you.
And I think we saw Wild Ones bringing in a Grasshopper, and they were able to get that Grasshopper up in a high position, and that high point up there was pretty instrumental when there was an Eisengrim push, main body coming up and over like this. They were able to get that fire into the backfield of those Eisengrim mechs, and that turned out to be a pretty big factor, because that's a lot of back cores. You turn to shoot at the enemy, and you're exposing your back completely to that mech.
The amazing thing about that, and really the difference between the first drop and the third drop in their match versus the Eisengrim, was in the first drop, Eisengrim went this way, and that Grasshopper suddenly is a lot less effective when you go on the D4 or the D-line side as opposed to the Echo side. So it's definitely a risk that they will have to consider.
But there's only one way to find out, and that's to get in there and take a look. Remember, we were commenting on that Grasshopper in that first match where he basically had one PPC. They were almost shrugging that PPC off the entire match, and then they made their push. But, you put that thing, it doesn't have just a PPC, and when they moved up closer to it, they got into the range of its full weapon set. And suddenly that mech becomes
medium lasers on that mech.
Exactly.
5 medium lasers and 1 PPC. So yeah.
So you get
when you get closer, suddenly that's a lot more firepower.
Suddenly all that heat capacity it has,
goes away.
Well, I mean, it becomes very useful at that range.
Yes.
All right, here we go. Let's take a look. We are on the Wild One side.
Coming in.
Grasshopper 5N, Roa Nitrox. 1 PPC, 5 medium lasers. Jay-Z and the
Stalker. Run that same strategy.
So they do have a little bit of LRMs on the field. They are bringing the AC-10 Annihilator and, of course, the Black Knight, which is instrumental. We've been seeing that Black Knight used quite a bit, but looks like a lot of pinpoint damage here from Wild Ones. What do you have on the other side?
Yeah, we have, for the most part, the same deck. A Banshee, Annihilator, Black Knight, Wolfhound, Hunchback 4P. They did bring a Vindicator 1X with a PPC, 2 machine guns, a medium laser, and LRM 5, but I think they brought it for the jump jets, really. He's getting up on the buildings here on the Echo line.
So it looks like they are conceding at least Theta to that Javelin, but he's immediately getting into position to be able to harass, getting a lot of burns in. The cap hasn't flipped yet, and he's getting that constant damage out. The Navid, David, whatever, he's getting a lot of good damage in and actually forced him off the point, so Theta was not capped. Good initial play, just controlling Theta right there. And
yeah,
we got Jay-Z and the Stalker marching up.
Across the map here.
They've conceded Theta to the Stalker. He's marching up now. He's going to cap it himself. And that's a lot of armor.
So that Vindicator actually is up
he's not
fighting against the Grasshopper 4228 Wild Ones. The Grasshopper does have the Javelin as support, so now there's 2 mechs versus that Vindicator up top. I don't think that's a good trade for this Vindicator. He's got to realize that he's outmatched and outgunned up here and do something different. But he's going to continue to take some fire here. That's Pelmashek in the Vindicator down to 83%. Not a good trade for him.
Looks like he's backing out, but I think there's still some pressure. He backed up a little bit, but that Javelin's not giving up. Let's see how badly he's
But at the meantime, we've got to push on the other side of the map. It looks like RJF moving up aggressive over the ramp. They might want that Vindicator to just keep heads turned, and it looks like they're doing that right now. Jay-Z looking towards that direction.
Val needs to be careful in that commando. I think he's got a lot more, especially with this Annihilator coming up on the backside, getting some big hits on him. They got to be calling out this push. Here it comes.
Yeah, push right over the ramp.
That Hunchback has nowhere to go.
Up top.
So the commando really just trying to draw fire. They've got the Black Knight in the backside. He's actually starting to get around. Looks like he just lost his main weaponry though, so he's gonna back around the corner, but he's only got 2 weapons left. A lot of strikes coming in here. They've got a good spread though for 228, a good reception line, and RJF is kind of paying for it. Wolfhound down to 76%. He's center cord, and the main body now moving in.
I think they're gonna regret leaving Jay-Z up top on Theta right here. It looks like maybe a light coming up to engage, but there's a Javelin as well.
Main body has breached though, but they're getting hit from multiple locations. That Annihilator on the backside there looks like he's going to be taking a lot of fire. He's a very, very critical target. And we got 2 quick kills. Black Knights on both sides get taken out, and that Vindicator was taken down by that Grasshopper. That Grasshopper now is going to be able to join the fight. They do have that Wolfhound.
Did have the opportunity though to take some fire from the Grasshopper away from main body, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough. Jay-Z up here on Theta has just got free reign other than the Wolfhound here.
And the Wolfhound and the Grasshopper have been able to join the fight now, so they're going to get some more firepower on the field. 3 dead, 4 Wild Ones, but everybody on the field is hurt. It's really going to come down to who can make these shots. They've got to get
this Annihilator down, though. He's right in the middle of the field, just moving up as slow as can be, but so much firepower. And he takes down Jay-Z.
The Wolfhound was doing a lot of work on his backside, getting that center torso cherry.
Yeah, they've got to take that Annihilator down.
On the flip side, they lost the Annihilator on that backside. That was a pretty key mech back there to lose. Kondo in that 4P trying to back his way out, getting harassed now by the Banshee, essentially just using up that Banshee's heat, but they do still have some guys up on Theta now getting pressed by the Javelin. His right leg is open. A key shot could take that Javelin's leg out.
If RJF can take out this Grasshopper, that'll be huge.
They are working on him big time.
228 needs to support this Grasshopper a little more.
That 4P, he's down to 1 small laser. He's open center torso. But the Grasshopper, Cherry, he's shot. He's using his back armor now to try and protect himself against that Javelin. He's able to.
Did they just leg that mech?
They just legged the Javelin, and the Grasshopper finally goes down, but they are able to take down the opposite Javelin. 2 mechs remaining 4 wild ones.
And they might be playing the cap one back here.
They've got 400 tickets up. They've got 400 tickets up. They've got a 3 cap. Not a bad idea if they can keep their javelin alive.
Kappa is under enemy control.
They've got all the lights dead.
They've got to play the corners here. They've got to play the corners.
RJF's lights are all dead, so they're going to fan out now. They're going to try and flip a lot of caps here. But these lights, 4 wild ones, are incredibly hurt.
Yeah, this Wolfhound is really hurt too. I'm going to take a peek at what he's doing.
He's down to just a cherry red torso.
He's got a lot of his weapons, but taking fire, that's a bad trade.
Ooh, down to just the 2 medium lasers now. He still is able to stop the cap. He's able to maybe try and contest.
Yeah, he's going to contest against this Enforcer, who is very beat up. Here comes the first engagement. Gets a torso off.
Down to 1 AC-10. Does he have any ammo?
No, he is out of ammo. He is weaponless. I don't know if he knows that, though.
Well, the Wolfhound is staying incredibly aggressive. I think he knows it. So he's going to be able to lock down Kappa. He's not going to give it up. 150 tickets for wild ones until victory. And this 1 point could be key to that victory. They are flipping a lot of stuff back. But that's a big win there.
Leaving Sigma without flipping it. I guess, yeah, they recognize they've got to.
They need to kill these mechs. Neutralize and then kill is their key.
Let's take a look at what's happening at Gamma. This is going to be the next engagement. Javelin versus the Annihilator.
He's got a lot of armor left on him.
Let's take a look. This Annihilator has 2 medium lasers left, open center torso, but still has a lot of structure. Going to be a tough kill for this Javelin.
100 tickets remaining.
But this Javelin needs to realize that he doesn't have to necessarily engage. He just has to get shots downfield.
He is playing his corners really well against this Annihilator. The Annihilator's not going to be able to get away.
It's all about just getting shots downfield. Don't get killed. Just block the cap. And they've an Annihilator and Hunchback. They're both trying to use the same building.
He's doing a good job.
Stop the cap. Now the Annihilator's done the right thing.
Yeah, he's pushing up and using his body.
Yeah, the Hunchback is staying back while the Annihilator protects, but I think that holding that point long enough might have done it.
I think this Javelin's going to be able to... Oh, and he was able to take out that Hunchback that's on the cap.
And just barely stop that cap. It's still
in favor of Wild Ones. I think Wild Ones is going to be able to pull this one off.
Yeah.
They still have 2 caps bleeding, only 30 tickets remaining. Good effort by those remaining 2 lights. Kappa is going to get...
Kappa's about to fall, so he needs to protect against this guy. And it gets neutralized.
Wow.
So he's got to kill this Annihilator. He's got to kill this Annihilator and get the field. He can do it, but he's got to kill the Annihilator. And recap.
Command confirming.
Let's take a peek in the Annihilator. His cherry red 1 shot should take him down. This Javelin's got to be maybe a little more aggressive at this point.
And he's pushing in right now. He's going to try and get the job done. 3 cap now in favor of Russian Jade Falcon. But that Annihilator going down, that's going to flip that back.
That's it.
And we got 19 tickets remaining and nobody in the region. And that one is going to go in favor.
On the field. Won't be able to make it.
That one's going to go in favor of Wild Ones. With it was just the Javelin remaining, right? So it's now 1v1?
1v1, Javelin Banshee.
And that Kappa Gamma, that's going to seal the deal. That was some expert light play there by Wild Ones to come away with the win. That was
just
very close.
It away.
Good effort by RJF there, though. But that means 2-0, right?
No, RJF won the first one. It's 1-1.
Oh, 1-1. All right.
Yeah.
Well, you know me. I love my 2-1 decisions.
It's like, where did you get 2-0 from? What a close game.
No,
nice
was
play,
an incredibly
like you said,
close
by
game.
the lights there. Nice drop calling as well, recognizing you've lost the push, you've lost main body, but you've taken out the lights for RJF, and at that point, it's the right call to disengage with your light mechs, go for the cap, and they did that. That's what saved them. I mean, that disengaging, not taking more damage with the lights is what won that game for him.
That Wild Ones Annihilator in that backfield did get taken down, but not before dealing 724 damage on that RJF push. That was a massive amount of damage being dealt. The Javelin pulling 522 in a light, 4 kills. just doing work against trying to strip down that Annihilator and that 4P. Those guys were cherry. Like, the Annihilator took a lot more shots to finish off, but I believe he was out of ammunition, or at least didn't have AC-10s available anymore. He was
out of ammunition,
He just had the one, like, center laser, right? Like a small laser?
Two medium lasers.
Two medium lasers?
Two medium lasers. So still some firepower, but so much more maneuverable in the Javelin than that Annihilator. You should win that fight.
Exactly.
That Annihilator's just a turret.
And he was able to kind of reach back and touch that Hunchback. The Hunchback was cherry. He identified that he was one shot. Taking that Hunchback out, you know, that just makes it that much easier to win the contest and come back. But that was an exciting match, and seems like Wild Ones kind of snatching victory away from Russian Jade Falcon there, because that RJF push was pretty good. Wild Ones, though, like we said before, a great reception. They had it surrounded. I
didn't feel like the focus was that good for Wild Ones, though. I think that's the difference. I think they were set up in a good position, but they weren't focusing like they needed to be.
Yeah, a couple of the key engagements here. We had two mechs, the Grasshopper and the Javelin, up on this location, fighting against, was a single Vindicator, I believe, back here, essentially.
Yep.
And those two mechs were up against that Vindicator through pretty much that entire push. So that one mech was tying up a lot more tonnage there, which allowed the push from RJF essentially to come around this corner and start filtering in. Now they did have Stalker and another mech up here. Let's go take a look at the map band quick for drop 3. We're gonna see another Caustic or another Mining. Looks like we're going right back to Caustic.
228 wants a rematch. Hopefully no ammo explosions for them next time.
All right. Then we've got, let's see here, the push coming in. They had the Stalker up by Theta. They had the Annihilator in a key position back here. They had the Hunchback 4P up in D5. So that push coming through, they did manage to take the shoulder off the 4P relatively soon. That takes a lot of medium lasers off the field. I believe 7 medium lasers destroyed by taking that hunch off. But that Annihilator in the back dealing pretty significant damage. They had the Wolfhound come up and start messing with JZ in the Stalker up in the backfield here. But once that Vindicator went down, that freed up both the Grasshopper and the Javelin to come in and join the fight. And getting that firepower back in the field, you know, that was pretty significant. You know, if that Vindicator was able to hold out even a little bit longer. Now, in fairness to him, he held out, it seemed like an eternity already. You can't really ask that much more from that Vindicator pilot, tying up those two mechs for as long as they did. But it's just such a difficult push, especially being surrounded like that. I think everybody was doing their job, though. Just harassing in the backfield, getting that Annihilator down, and it really, RJF making that extremely close, but losing those lights really opened up the cap game to Wild Ones, and then just some really good light play to get some key engagements won, such as the Javelin against the Annihilator and the Hunchback, and then on the other side we saw the Wolfhound was able to take out an ammo-less. What was it on the other side?
It was a ammo-less. Wow, my memory just disappeared right there.
They took out somebody on the other side at Kappa.
They did.
So
yeah, the AC-10s. What was
the AC-10s did not come in handy there. That's stock mode. I mean, they did increase the amount of ammunition per ton. Especially for stock mode to just kind of supplement that, but still limited ammunition. You can't stack ammo, you can't change up your mechs or anything, and that ended up with a very long engagement like that, ended up being costly. So that he did manage to take the shoulder off the Wolfhound, but the Wolfhound has zombie lasers, the 2 center torso mounted medium lasers, and was able to get the job done. I didn't see how the Wolfhound ended up dying. Did you see how that
engagement? I think it was the Banshee that got him, but that engagement at Theta, when they managed to leg, I think it was the Javelin.
Yeah.
For RJF, they legged that Javelin and ultimately killed him as well. But that point was the point when you saw the 2 lights break off.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the right call. You're losing the fight. There's a lot more mechs on the field than you. You leg the last light mech available. You get out of town, get under cover, and start.
And they had a 400 ticket lead to begin with.
Yeah,
too.
and that helps.
That was pretty big. RJF taking a big risk, ignoring the caps completely. They wanted to win that main engagement. But yeah, that grasshopper, cherry, couldn't get any more red. Center torso.
Staying alive.
Turning his back to the enemy and using some of that stock mode back armor to run out around the corner, baiting that javelin in, which then immediately got legged by, I want to say it was the other javelin, jumping over or jumping away from the grasshopper with like a fadeaway shot, legging that javelin and then ultimately finishing it off. Big plays by that grasshopper. If he would have just died on Theta, it wouldn't have happened. Like him getting out of Theta, preserving his mech long enough, he did ultimately die, long enough though to bait him in to the opposing javelin. That's little plays like that add up real quick.
Yeah, that was a good play all around really by 228 to take a losing situation and spin it around into their advantage. Like you said, the one thing they had going for them where they had so many more tickets, and they're basically at that point, main body's lost. They got rolled over by the remainder of RJF's mechs, and being able to recognize you have the caps, get out of town, and take that what could have been very easily a defeat and turn it into a victory is good for them. The other advantage it gives them is once you recognize that there's only slow mechs on the field for RJF, and you split up with your 2 light mechs, and you're up on cap points. You've got a 4 cap roll, and RJF has to spread out, and that's what allowed them in the Wolfhound and the Javelin to kind of whittle away at those mechs and win those engagements, because they were for the most part all one-on-ones.
Yep, and even with like the Hunchback, he's cherry. He can't be a big contributor to that fight. It all came down to essentially the Annihilator, and we saw that Annihilator pushing up to try and just force that guy off, but it wasn't going to happen. It was a good effort, but Wild Ones able to stay alive and take this into Game 3, which is extremely exciting. But back to Caustic Valley, Wild Ones just lost on this map. They had the Lerm deck against that pinpoint, and RJF extremely aggressive. Is Wild Ones going to change something up here? They know RJF has been aggressive twice in a row. Are they going to change something up to try and receive this push, or are they going to just try and do the same thing and just do it better?
And if I were RJF, I'd almost be aggressive earlier in this map. Once you get set up, don't wait to take the damage. Just roll.
Exactly. They are back on the same sides of the map as well.
So rematch of drop 1, win or go home this time. Be our first elimination game.
It's been a fantastic set of matches so far, though. These teams seem extremely close in skill level right now. So we got 3 lights, as usual. Wolfhound, Commando, and Locust, the big 3 for RJF.
Javelin, Commando, Locust for 228.
So are we seeing a big Lerm deck again for 228?
We are seeing the Annihilator, Banshee, Stalker, Archer, Hunchback 4J. Yeah, this seems like it's still the same LRM deck as before. Interestingly enough, they've actually sent the Annihilator to go cap Gamma. He's going to be out of the fight for a long time.
I think they might be thinking there's going to be some RJF aggression here. But they do have a decent amount of pinpoint themselves. I mean, they do have
data as well.
They do have a Hunchback 4J. They've got the Archer, they've got the Stalker, they got that Hunchback 4J, but they do have a little bit of pinpoint as well. So 3 cap in favor of Wild Ones, and Wild Ones seems to be staying very spread out.
Fire here. Down to 89%, came across the open, heading down towards Epsilon and Sigma direction, and took some fire. Got some locks downfield, though, it looks like.
Yeah, he was getting some locks on that Hunchback who's tucking up against the wall. I think they're trying to control Val this time. Val was doing a pretty good job getting a lot of that early damage in just through aggressive locks and stuff like that. But they're taking that away from Wild Ones this time. So
and
if
the
RJF
2 lights
is aggressive,
moving up on the Archer again. Second time in a row, this Archer has been the farthest on the left side of the Caldera. Getting some lights on him, and this Commando looks like he's going to try and sneak around. Although the Wolfhound got noticed. They've turned around and engaged him.
Big backfield play here. Val coming in the Locust, trying to get in behind that Banshee. Gets a UAV up. And we'll have to see if there's any rain that's going to come in from that. It's a pretty long range.
And there's a little bit coming in.
So they got eyes. They're able to get some hits on the Awesome. Now, they did flip Theta back. RJF is playing a lot more passively now than we saw in the last match, it seems. I think they're waiting for an opening, but Val in that backfield, jumping on the Awesome. He's getting chased now, and he's got a Locust on him too. He needs to be very careful. He's overstaying his welcome. Those PPCs from the Awesome are going to be useless at that range, but that Locust is going to get in on Val. And he's trying to take him down.
There's a little bit of a light fight happening as well at the Kappa side of things. The Wolfhound tangling with the Commando, actually. Commando is overmatched right now, but he's getting some LRM support from his teammates. The key, though, that Wolfhound up against the wall, blocking a lot of those shots. So a lot of those LRMs are just hitting the Caldera
big strike
right
on
now.
that Wolfhound. And the Commando's coming back for more. The other Commando had left the fight thinking that he gave up, but here he comes again, and now he's taking some shots himself. He's got to be very careful.
Yeah, these 228 lights are being very aggressive right now. Obviously trying to get some locks, but they're taking a lot of damage on the field, and they're valuable on a map this big.
Yeah, absolutely. Now Val down to 66%. Looked like he's finally pulling out. But Wild Ones definitely took a lot of hits there, and they haven't really been dealing it out. Down to 54% for the Wolfhound, 70% for the Awesome. But beyond that, RJF staying
like RJF
very buttoned up here
on the field.
They've been, the Annihilator now getting some big hits on him. I think Val is getting an angle on that Annihilator, and the Annihilator's getting hit pretty hard. But the Locust now, Locust versus Locust.
Yeah, LRM's coming down on this Annihilator too. He's taking a lot of damage.
MK getting in there and flushing out Val, making him pay for that Annihilator's damage. Oh, another big PPC hit, down to 56%. So that was good damage on that Annihilator from the LRMs. It was good effort by Val to get the locks.
On top of that Annihilator as well.
A lot of single engagements here. It allows the LRMs to focus. A lot of individual fights going on. But RJF using the walls very, very well. They get hit a little bit, and then they get smart, and they get up against the wall. So Wild Ones, I think they're loving the slowness of this battle. RJF is not aggressive this time, but
I'm not sure they're winning the battle, though. I think they're taking a lot of damage.
RJF is dealing it back, and they're not taking a lot from those LRMs, and I think we're going to see a pretty big push at some point to finish it up once they realize how open a lot of these Wild Ones mechs are. But they don't need to, though. They're up 3 caps.
Yeah, they've got a 3 cap, so RJF might be playing slow. That being said, 228 making a play for Kappa with this Commando, who I think only has 1 weapon on him. Let's take a peek.
Looks like they're going for a Kappa.
He's been noticed.
I think he'll be able to take it back, though. The Commando's heading over there, but I think he'll be able to snag the
down
cap.
on that. He needs to get out of town.
And he was able to get out of there. He neutralized it, but did not cap it. And now that other Commando coming to play, I don't know if he knows that he's overstaying his welcome. Armor. He wants that cap bad, but if he dies, it's not going to do him any good.
And here comes the Commando. He's got to run.
He's getting out of there, but this transition's going to hurt. He's getting cut off, too. The Wolfhound also joining. Now, Wild One's able to, or RJF able to take Epsilon. In the meantime,
he doesn't have any support. This Commando's in a world of trouble right now.
Wild Ones is in trouble big time, and that Commando is going to get taken down. He's the only thing I think that could save him at this point is Val coming in and getting some locks. But are we having a main engagement push? Those Lerms are not going to be coming towards them because Wild Ones is on the aggression.
Yeah, Wild Ones is in full aggression mode here. I don't think they realize, that Commando goes down. I don't think they realize there's a, what is this? A Black Knight? No, that's
they're completely surrounded in the Caldera. 4 sides, Locust, Hunchback, Black Knight, and then the main body completely surrounding them. That Archer leading the charge into the Annihilator, who is one-shot center torso, wasn't able to take him out on that volley. Good twisting by Den Airwalker, keeping his Annihilator alive for a very long time.
Him down.
But there are a lot of hurt mechs on the field. Jay-Z up in front.
An overheat, though, by the Banshee for RJF. That slows him down a little bit.
2v1 engagement here against the Awesome. That Awesome is not going to be able to return fire.
This Archer needs
getting
to
help
get
from the
out of
Locust.
that Awesome's face, though.
Yeah, you need to give him a little bit of separation there.
Give him a little space.
The Banshee, Volkadav, he's open center torso against that Archer. Val is able to take down the Commando. So this big push by Wild Ones might be working out in their favor. The Archer gets taken down.
Archer finally goes down.
But then he gets the Banshee down.
Take down Banshee and then self-destruct by Rattler in the 4J, taking that Banshee down, but killing himself in the process. This has devolved into just one-on-one
Only
fights
100
here.
tickets left, though, for RJF. Wild Ones needs to wrap this up quick. JZ.
The Awesome goes down. This might actually be turning.
There's 2 lights remaining still, though, for Wild Ones. If they can get to the decap, Navid in the Javelin needs to keep himself alive. He is open center torso, and that Hunchback is trying to burn him. He must be running on heat cap, though. Desperately trying to run out of the range of the medium lasers. Terminator wants him dead. He's cherry center torso. If he takes him out right here, he gets around the corner. They need to get some neutralizations, though. 50 tickets remaining.
Another key, Locust sitting on Kappa, trying to cap Kappa, but he's got the Wolfhound in the backfield, and he pulled off Kappa after neutralizing it.
And Sigma is being contested now as well. The Stalker slowly getting over there, but 20 tickets remaining. I don't know if Wild Ones has enough time. Epsilon is neutralized, but Gamma is sitting unchecked. This one is gonna go in favor of RJF.
Oh,
it was a
and
huge
sliver cap on Gamma.
Huge push. Huge push by Wild Ones, almost pulling it off. Had their lights remaining, but they needed to peel those lights off sooner to get the neutralizations. And it didn't come in time. RJF with the cap victory, and even 4 mechs on either side. But that was a very good push by Wild Ones. They were surrounded, but they were getting kills, and they were forcing self-destructs.
The key for that is they were surrounded, but they kept pushing forward until they got into the rocks on the edge of the caldera. And at that point, that terrain splits up the fights a little more, and that's what I think allowed them to stay alive in that main body push. But like you said, you got to recognize that you need to disengage the light sooner. Losing that Commando on, overstaying his welcome at Kappa, that hurts big time.
Those assaults and the Archer 613 with the LRMs, the Annihilator 718, and then the Stalker 548. Assaults and heavies just getting some work done. The 4J still tossing 416. They definitely I feel. I guess added up, it's pretty close. I mean, they had 4 mechs dead on either side, but a couple of the key plays there in my mind, RJF didn't go aggressive this time. They went cap. So they changed it up on Wild Ones. I think Wild Ones was prepared to receive, and they never sent it. They fought over Theta. And a couple of the key things I feel, they controlled Val. Val was running unchecked in that first drop. It was getting the locks, getting the back harassment, especially, on the Awesome that couldn't fight back. Just controlling Val. I mean, that was big.
Yeah.
And they had a lot more damage being dealt to the lights. They were handling the lights. They were not letting the lights run around unchecked. They were dealing out damage to the lights. A lot of the main body for Wild Ones was still sitting at like 100% basically. So they weren't getting touched. They weren't getting scratched. Russian Jade Falcon committing all of its effort on controlling the light mechs. Now, they didn't end up killing a lot of those light mechs for Wild Ones, but they controlled them so they didn't take damage. They didn't take a huge amount of rain. There were some opportunities where Val was able to get like a good lock on the Annihilator, but the key in my mind here, RJF playing their terrain extremely well. We did not see anybody like, oh no, I'm caught out and I'm getting rained on. I saw no instances of that. RJF playing the walls, even in a light engagement. Like, they're fighting against a light, and they still have a big wall next to them.
Corner. Yeah, exactly.
Just some expert play there by the light pilots, by everyone on RJF, nullifying LRMs with some really good positioning and really good focus on who's getting those locks. And taking away a huge amount of damage from Wild Ones there, and dealing out some of the damage to them for themselves against those light mechs. Like I said, though, they didn't take out the light mechs, so there was still a chance Wild Ones was going to be able to flip those caps back at the end. But a good Wild Ones push through the middle, they needed to have those lights with them to make that push happen, though. It ended up making it so the Wild Ones were able to even it up with 4 mechs alive on either side, but they had to use their lights to do it instead of using those lights to go neutralize. And then even still, going to neutralize those points under a hail of fire by RJF mechs blocking from range. They weren't sitting on a cap and protecting it. They were able to do it from range, you know, able to just harass. That 4P, he didn't kill that light mech, but he was able to make him have to zigzag and have to worry about keeping his mech alive and have to duck around a corner, keeping those chain fire lasers essentially pumping out that damage at extreme ranges until ultimately those medium lasers weren't going to do anything. But just that, like, I'm coming for you, man. You know, you can't run straight to the cap and neutralize it. And that's what they needed, is they needed to get those lights disengaged earlier on. I don't know if Wild Ones would have been able to necessarily win that main body engagement, though, without the lights present.
Yeah, and to me, I think that the biggest turning point was the inability of 228 Wild Ones to take Kappa and to take Kappa at all. But it was a good job. They had the Wolfhound. They also had, I think, at one point, the Black Knight up on the Delta 4 side of things. And just getting some scratch damage in on Kappa from the Caldera. You're not giving up your positioning to do that, but you're just paying attention to it. And we've seen teams before kind of ignore Kappa because it's way off in the corner. You know, there's a lot of terrain there. It's hard to necessarily find mechs in that terrain, and they'll just ignore it. And the RJFs refusing to ignore Kappa, to protect Kappa as long as they can, I think, as long as they can, was the turning point in that match, because you move up, you take Sigma, Theta, you protect Kappa, and now all of a sudden you've got the 3 cap that whole time. You can fight over Epsilon, and they really just had 228 on their heels, I think, most of that match.
I think that was a lot more of the RJF I think we're used to seeing. Now, we're used to seeing a lot of aggression out of RJF, but that was some really clean, standoffish gameplay by RJF there. Like, that aggression can get you into trouble, but this shows, I think, the diversity of the RJF playbook, and they slowed the match down, and they played through the entire duration of that battle. They played solid. They had great sight lines. They had great map control. They had great protection, terrain protection, and it was just overall, I mean, I think that might have been some of the best gameplay out of RJF I've seen so far in this tournament, if not, you know, any of the times that we've been able to see them. I'm super excited to see them pull that off. But of course, 228 Wild Ones, very hard fought, drawing that into, you know, a 2-1 decision, but they are out of the semifinals. They're the first team eliminated.
Yeah, and so that's unfortunate for 228, but RJF moves on, and will be facing... Where's the bracket up here? Let's take a peek.
And that is the only Oceanic team that made it into the semifinals.
Only Oceanic team that made it. And they did a good job, right? They beat Dudes Club in their first drop, so they had a win under the semifinals. And then played EMP, tough, took a drop off EMP. Unfortunately, just a bunch of very close matches here, just not able to squeeze it out for 228.
And it's important to note that Wild Ones is the first one to be eliminated in the semifinals. That doesn't necessarily mean anything about their team necessarily, because they've played more matches than anybody in the semifinals so far, with 3 matches under their belt now, right? So we're seeing them as the first eliminated, but that's, in my mind, simply due to time zones. They're Australians see the day first, you know what I mean? They're in the future. So in the future, Wild Ones played more matches than everyone else and ultimately got eliminated. But no doubt in my mind, 228 Wild Ones belonged in the top 12 and made a big impact in my mind.